Hi everybody, today I want to share with you 3 games that encourage creative storytelling, and if you have an older child then you can take that storytelling and turn it into a written story. So the first one I want to show you, we'll start from like the youngest ages up, and it's this one by Ebu. It's called Create a Story Cards, and what they are beautifully illustrated cards that will encourage storytelling. Now there's a few different ways to play this game. One way for a young children, for instance, is that he can take one of the cards and begin a story, and he can lay it down, and then he can look for another card to kind of help move the story along, and then put that card down, and then he can continue the story until he gets to the end. And this helps with visual sequencing for the story, and then he can go back and retell the story again because he can see the cards. And also, if you're at a loss, you can go through all the cards and you can be inspired by some of the images. They're really, really beautiful and delightful. Now that's one way to play it. Another way to play it is what they call the goofy storytelling, and that would be to shuffle all the cards and then to divide them up amongst the players, give a few cards to each player, and then the person can take their cards and begin the story. It's a group activity, so he can begin the story and it can be goofy and silly, and then the next player can look at his or her cards and then continue the story, and then as a group you could tell a story, and it can be as silly as you want it to be or anything that you like. And again, that's a great way to do a cooperative storytelling, and also again you get to see the cards. And the last thing is that if you're at a loss for coming up with ideas on your own, then these cards can kind of help lead the way. One more way to play this game is for the adult to lead the story, and the adult can go through the cards and tell the story, or have a child pick out the cards that she wants the mom or the dad to tell a story about, and then that way they can work together, and the parent is the one leading the story, but the child can help if the child is really young or doesn't know how to put together a story or just wants the parent to do it. So this is a really great activity for all ages, but especially young students, because there's no writing necessary, and you can play this game either just like kind of individually, like each person telling their own story, or you can play it as a group. And then what you could do is, say you're done playing the game, you can maybe choose one story that you really enjoyed, and then you can write it down. So if you have a really young child, you might consider having that child dictate the story and then you can write it down. Or if your child's a little bit older, then he can write it down. All right, the next game I want to show you. Oh, and by the way, this one is recommended for ages 3 and up, but I think even a younger child will love it. And also, I forgot to mention that if you are new to storytelling and you struggle with it, then this is a great way to be inspired to tell your own, tell stories that are inspired by the cards, but they're your own stories, to even really, really young children, even like little babies and toddlers. And so this would be great for you to have as a resource as a parent, as well as having it for your child. The next game is a cooperative game. This is by Peaceable Kingdom. It's called Memory Palace. I'm really, really enjoying this game. And there are a few different ways that you can play this game as well. And at first, it comes with all of these really nice cards that you can arrange to kind of make it look like a house, is at least the way we do it. We'll lay them all out. And they're really nice. They have an appropriate amount of details, not too detailed and it's not too sparse. So it gives you a good beginning point to tell stories. And then you get these tiles here, and the tiles are all of animals. And again, they're like really nicely drawn. They're super whimsical and just kind of charming and witty, and kind of give you kind of a silly story, a seed for a silly story. And so what you do is you can, there are multiple ways to play this game as well. I'm just going to mention one that's fairly easy. You don't have to start with all of the tiles. You can start with just a few tiles, and again, just a few of these cards. And that way it makes it a little bit easier for a beginner storyteller And also because it involves retelling the stories at the end, if you have fewer stories to tell, it's a little bit easier. So you have these tiles, and you know they're upside down, and you choose one, and there are some in here that are, I think, like they're trolls, and if you get them, then it kind of sets the game back, and if you get all three, then you lose, because it's a cooperative game. So if you draw one of these, then you don't want to draw one of these. So you'll have, like, say, one of these little tiles, and it's an owl, and you want to put the owl, like, say, in the kitchen, and then you'll tell a story about the owl in the kitchen. And then you can flip the card over, and then another child might tell a story about a turtle in the playroom, and then you flip it over, and so at the end of it, you've got all your tiles flipped over. And then part of the memory part of this game is to remember where the animals are in the different rooms, and then to remember the story about that animal within that room. So it comes with far more tiles than what I've just shown here, and of course far more of these animals as well. And so that way you have the potential to do this in a very easy, simple manner with young children, or you can make it a little bit more challenging with older kids. Now, the thing about this, which is really great, is that it's both storytelling and memory. So you do have to remember where the tiles are, so it does help with memory. It's like a little memory game, but at the same time, it also encourages creative storytelling. And again, there's nothing that you have to write down, so this is really great for a young student, preschool and kindergarten. And I'll tell you, I like to play it, and my 10-year-old likes to play it. So I really don't think that there's an age limit on some of these toys, or some of these games. So the other thing that I wanted to say about this is that if you have an older student that you are trying to encourage some creative writing with, then you might start with something fun like this, like a game, and then you've got your tiles and you're telling your story, and then after the stories are done, you might again choose your favorite one and then write it down. And if you have a young student, you might just choose to have that child dictate, and then you just write that story down for them. All right, so I've got one more game to show you. And this next game is called Create a Story. And this was one of my very first homeschooling purchases that I ever made. This was years and years and years ago. We got it from a homeschool conference back when I was buying this from the creator who made this game. Now you can find them anywhere. So it was really great to hear why she created this game in the first place. And I'm pretty sure it still looks the same, but I haven't looked at the newer ones to see if it's been revised at all. But basically it comes with this really nice board game. It's quite large, and it has, again, illustrations that really kind of spark the imagination. And then on the board there are different places that you can land on, and this one like says plot and lesson and setting and resolution. And then you get the cards that accompany those different tiles on the board. And so this one says lesson, and I learned to be a good listener. And this one says plot, and it says blue slime was oozing up through the ground and I was unable to move my feet. And then this one says character, it says a giant octopus. And so basically it's both a game where you try to get through the board, but at the same time you're collecting these cards so that when you're done getting through the board, you can create a story. And what's really great is that this one comes with the worksheet that you can use to help outline your story, and then at the end of it you can go ahead and write up your story. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to use all the different plot cards or the lesson cards or the character cards, but this gives you a nice beginning point to start a story, especially if you struggle with coming up with creative storytelling ideas, or if your student just doesn't really know where to begin. This is another great game to help with that. This will be for an older student. On the board, or on the game, it says ages 5 and up. Well, 5 to 99. But anyway, this, if your child again has to write the story down and she's a little bit young and is unable to do that, then go ahead and write that down for her. And if she's a little bit older, then she can write it on her own. So these are 3 games that we have enjoyed in our homeschool to help us with creative writing. And if you have any games or any ideas to help your students with creative writing, please let me know about them below. All right, thanks for watching.